I really hope you enjoy this next episode with Mallory, our friend Mallory Erickson. We're huge fans of hers. We've been watching her from afar, huge fans of the podcast and her books and everything that she's done in the space. Fascinating conversation about the nervous system. I didn't know we were going to go down that path. And it was really, really awesome that we did. And she gives some really, really cool tools about caring for yourself and making sure that your nervous system's in check and not overcooked and overworked and all those things. And if you do get a lot of value out of this episode, do us a favor, share it with someone in your network, or anyone that could get a good boost, an injection of positivity from the episode and learning more about Mallory and the work that she's doing. I'm going to challenge everyone to do us a favor, do yourself a favor, do someone a favor by making sure that you believe in someone. Let them know. I recently had a conversation with an old running friend. He said something to me that I didn't remember even telling him. I talk a lot, I guess. He said, all you really need is someone to believe in you. He told me that a long time ago. I said that? It sounds like something I would say, but I didn't remember. And it really stuck with me because I really respect this person a lot and what they've accomplished in life and as a runner and a father and a human being. And it was something that I've been playing with in my mind. And as a challenge to myself is making sure that I believe in people, making sure I let them know that. And the challenge to you is find someone that you believe in, let them know, even if you think they already know, tell them anyway, and let them know that you believe in them. I think it would mean a lot to them. I know it would mean a lot to you too. So here's the episode. Enjoy it. Make sure to reach out to Mallory, connect with her on LinkedIn or however you choose to, and show her some love and support. And here's the show. You have a huge responsibility. You know what I mean? And I mean that because you've earned it, obviously, right? And the position that you found yourself in. I feel like a lot of people in the short time I've gotten to know you and meet you in person, and of course I've seen the pod and the book and what you got going on, and we have mutual friends. Like I was just talking to Nathan earlier today. I'm like, hey, Mallory's coming on the pod. How cool is that? And of course, every time if I say your name to Nathan, he goes, oh my god, And he's one of those people too where y'all have really, really broad shoulders, and you house a lot for this space. Do you feel like and I use the term responsibility, but like, do you feel that? And that's also like an opportunity, a responsibility, a privilege, all these things that when we find ourselves in these positions in life and professionally, and how much of our personal life bleeds into this work, do you feel that responsibility? Because I know a lot of people look up to you for that.
Gosh, that's such an interesting question. I think, I've shared this story a little bit before. So when I was in nonprofit roles, I was often in like the number 2 role. Like I was either leading the organization, but under kind of like a strong board chair, or I was the managing director under an ED. I really don't like being the center of attention. I love doing the work. I love the work, but I would be invisible if I could be. And when I decided when I felt like called to do this work, I hired a visibility coach because I was like, I don't want to be visible, but I'm feeling called to do this thing that is really visible. And she worked me through a lot of the stuff that I was holding, but I just remember this one day where she said, look, like you have a choice to make. Like you can either make the impact and the change that you want to make, and that requires you to be visible, or you cannot do that and not be visible. And like, you're at a crossroads,
Yeah.
And so obviously I chose to put myself out there. And it's a weird experience because I don't know if self-conscious is the right word, but I don't like being on a pedestal. Yeah. Like when I'm with people and they'll be like, oh, I'm such a fan, or I'm like, oh, like I just want to connect with you. Yeah. Like when I tell people to go to my LinkedIn, I'm like, could you connect with me and not just like follow me? Like I want to know, like I want to be in relationship with people. And I do love that. Yeah. Sometimes I have felt like in the last few years that as people have like known me more, I've felt a little bit more isolated. Like actually when I walk into a space, I feel like that whole pedestal concept is like, makes me feel it's a little lonely. It's like, I don't want to be up there.
Yeah.
right? Like I want to be with you. I want to be with everybody. Like I want to be connected. So I think I'm like, I definitely am like grappling with that.
Yeah.
In terms of like the responsibility piece, I think I'm the oldest of four.
Oh,
So I just
okay.
feel
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
responsibility is like
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how to separate myself from
Yeah.
taking responsibility for way too much. Like that is just like my programming to the max. So I don't know that I feel that burden. I think I keep just trying to show up with integrity, and I try to show up with like where I'm always going to stand by my decisions and what I do. It's interesting, like on the team with Practivated, like people have access to my email and my LinkedIn and whatever. And somebody was like, "Oh, can I post this for you?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Just my LinkedIn's on 1Password." And they were like, "What?" And I was like, "I don't have anything to hide.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing you could find about me that would make you like that would change me, you know? Like
Yeah.
and so I just as long as I stay true to that, um I think I'll be okay with it."
Yeah, it's an evolving thing, isn't it? It's very interesting. On a very smaller scale, I personally, I've grappled with that too, right? Like I'm
Mm.
deathly terrified of like public speaking. I hide behind the
Really?
screen. Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, 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 absolutely. And also, um, just like very minor attention that we've gotten from like obviously the work that we do, the company, the podcast and stuff like that has been at times uncomfortable. And it's really weird because I'm like the most like outgoing, like social, like my wife has to remind me constantly not to invite a bunch of people over. I always want to hang out with my friends, and I always want to have conversations like this and people and be around people that I enjoy. Like I really get a lot of energy out of it.
Mm.
Um, but it's yeah that I guess it's like I said, it's like it's an evolving thing, and I want to like we'll talk again, and we'll revisit that as well, because it
Mhm.
is something that changes. And back to your point too, though, like you mentioned with everything that's always going on, and how needed the work is, and like you
Mhm.
said, what your the calling, so to speak, right, is there's always going to be something going on. Like we're
Totally.
that you know what I mean? There's always going to be something going on. And yeah, and I think that's like the like bookmarking that is just like it's an evolving thing, and handling it. It's interesting because like one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, of course, is like, you know, I'm assuming a lot of what you've built with others, and you have got great partners, and great connections, and great people, and it's amazing, right? And no one does this alone. A lot of what you've done, and I'm assuming what you continue to do, is talk to fundraisers and leaders and just people in general that listen about their well-being. Like I
Mhm.
know you're like, you talk about burnout, and I don't think that's a buzz term. It's real, right? And
Mhm.
just mindset and well-being, and talk about that, and like talk about how that's been evolving, and how you're
Mm.
viewing that and the conversations that you're having, if you don't mind.
I never expected to like talk about wellness and burnout, which I feel funny saying because like I was certified as a yoga teacher and I'm
Okay.
from the Bay Area. So
Yeah.
there's plenty of like woo woo
Yeah.
in me.
Yeah.
But I actually like stumbled into my work around stress and burnout and the nervous system work totally by accident.
Wow.
Like I was coaching fundraisers with my executive coaching tools that had been really valuable to me. That was mostly around mindset work, right? How our thoughts and our beliefs inform how we feel, and then that impacts what we do. And I started just sharing the frameworks that had been so transformational for me with other fundraisers, because I started to identify these places where there's a lot of barriers to fundraising. There's plenty of external barriers. There are a lot of internal barriers. There are a lot of ways that we like sabotage ourselves unknowingly, because and it's not our fault. Like that's the product of a system that we're in, and a culture of a sector that teaches us things that we adopt, and then they create these internal barriers. And what I started to find was I'd be coaching fundraisers, and I would discover this resistance that I thought I could solve with tools or a template or a strategy or even the accountability of being a coach. And I would go on a coaching call and we'd set our goals at the end of the call, for them to reach out to 3 donors or whatever. They'd come back to the next call the next week, and they wouldn't have done it. And they would give me every reason under the sun why they didn't do it. But at the end of the day, they were scared. They were scared about what would happen if, and it was deeper than that too. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm afraid. It was like, oh, if this person says no, then I'm bad at my job. If this thing happens, then maybe our organization isn't worthy of that kind of funding. Maybe I'm not good enough or charismatic enough, and I started to just like see and feel the like fear and stress that people were experiencing when they were fundraising. And so when I started to like bring on neuroscientists and behavioral scientists and therapists and psychologists on what the fundraising, it wasn't because I was like, oh, I want to be like a fundraising wellness guru.
Yeah.
I want to help people raise more money. And this is the biggest barrier to them doing that.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that would be what I would find. I thought I would figure out some other unlock that then helped us move more money into the sector. But time after time after time, it was this relationship between how we feel and what we do that was holding people back from being able to raise more. And so then I was like, well, if this is at the core, if this is the root problem to why we can't build more transformational relationships or more connected relationships, why we revert back into these transactional scarcity, like urgency tactics, then we've got to solve for it. Like we just have to solve for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that you went that route with, like you said, like the neuroscientists and whatnot. And the podcast was such a lovely platform for that. How many episodes did you do?
Oh my gosh, I think I'm on like 270 at some point.
Oh,
I've
good for
lost
you.
complete count, but
Yeah.
I really just, and I feel like you're similar in this way. It's really just like learning in public.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I had never listened to a podcast when I created my first podcast. I
Yeah.
didn't even really I remember saying to my husband, I'm having all these amazing conversations that I just want to share with everyone. And he was like, honey, like that's a podcast. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, and I like went on Upwork. I
Yeah.
was
Totally.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Exactly.
did
Exactly.
it.
Yeah. 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 It is interesting when you find yourself in the position where you're like, oh, we're doing that.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad you did. It's interesting. And how many do you do episodes like every week, or how often are you putting them out? Yeah.
Yeah, I've gone in, I started weekly and then I would do these mini series of like 3 a week. And I did that for a long time in a much higher volume. Now I'm back to mostly once a week, but once in a while I'm just like, I'll do like I did a little higher ed cohort recently where I put out 3 in 1 week and they were all different higher ed fundraisers because I thought it was interesting to like look at the way they approach the same problem really differently. So anytime I feel like it's a little bit of like a learning lab, I'll do something like that. But
Yeah.
I kind of just, yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool when you were like, oh, this space needs this. This space needs to be served in this way. Like I read
Mm.
your AHA newsletter, about that, and I want to definitely get into that and stuff. I just really random. I was talking to one of our one of our teammates today, and I was like, I'm gonna ask Mallory like with like for instance, just about like the call reluctance or
Mm.
the mindset and all that stuff. If you had one thing where if I
Mm.
gave you a megaphone, for instance, not to be corny, but like,
Mm.
and 100,000 people would hear it about like people being
Mm.
afraid to pick up the phone or the call reluctance or whatever you want to call it. Like,
Mm.
what would you say? Because I know you're not
Mm.
afraid to talk in front of 100,000 people.
With my eyes closed.
Yeah.
I would say the thing we have to understand is that when our body is in a state of stress, we lose our ability to build relationships. When
Mm,
our back brain comes online, our brain has 2 jobs: to keep us alive and to conserve as much energy as possible. And it shuts down everything else. And so as we try to like power through something like that, we are actually making ourselves feel less safe. We're like, oh, Mallory, like you should be able to just pick up the phone. Come on, you've been a fundraiser for so long. Why can't you just do this? This isn't so hard, Mallory. Just do it. All of those things actually continue to like shut us down. And so we think that we just have to like grind it out or, whatever, work harder, push harder, motivate more. And actually, it is a little bit of softness and care and compassion that makes our body feel safe enough to take the action, to just say to ourselves, wow, it makes so much sense that you're scared or you're nervous right now. This is vulnerable. It makes so much sense that you don't want to do this right now because that one time that guy Gary was really rude,
Yeah,
like,
totally. Yeah.
and this is a lesson I always have to remind myself too, is like we just so much of our conditioning in the world that we live in the country that we live in is about going harder. And I think the thing we don't realize is that when our body is in a state of stress, that is actually the absolute last thing we should be doing.
Yeah. That comes with time and obviously patience with yourself and reps and all these things. And it's something that I've gotten a lot better about. Just like I used to have a lot of anxiety about I was an endurance athlete. You had to get out the door, and if you didn't get out the door and it was like 1 o'clock, for the whatever was on the docket, it's like, oh, you just feel less and less and less, and it's like, oh, get out. And it's like, and then how are you going to have a great session? And not all sessions are going to be great. And what's interesting now, I'm 45 and I feel the miles and stuff like that, right? But it's amazing how things will happen in life, and I just go, okay, well, I don't have that same anxiety anymore because I'm not competing or whatever, right? Like I don't have that same pressure that I would put on myself. And it's amazing how great I feel after rest. Do you know what I mean? It's just like just a day off, and it's like, oh, I don't creak when I wake up in the morning. It sounds so simpleton, but you get my point. It's just like, and my nervous system does come down. I'm very, I started doing some very interesting nervous system studies when I was competing in my last like endurance career, because I've definitely thrown my hands up in the air and given up and gone back to the well a couple times. And yeah, it's amazing learning about down regulating and what have you, and the different states, right, that you're in, and how to tap into that. It's been interesting. I don't think about that with fundraising very much. That should be a conversation. Obviously you've been having it for a long time, but yeah, it's amazing how you feel.
It's like been honestly an evolving conversation for me too, right? Like to me, and the athlete example is so interesting because it's almost like the difference between like skill and performance, right? It's like when you get to a certain level of athlete, I don't know how different, like if you think about the best tennis players in the world, like how different their skill really is. Like, I don't know. I kind of feel like they could all hit a target 1,000 times if you ask them to. But their performance, which is like how they regulate in the moment when the pressure is on and the eyes are on them and somebody does something unexpected and they mess up, like how they stay in the game so that they continue to be able to utilize those skills. That's performance. And like in fundraising, that's what matters. People are like, oh, I'm a great relationship builder. I'm like, cool. That tells me nothing about what you do when somebody says, how'd you get my phone number? Right? Because that shuts us down, and then we lose all those parts of ourselves and we try to disconnect it. We're like, oh, fundraising is just skills. It's not. It's such a vulnerable human activity. Like we can't compartmentalize stress because it's in our body. Like unless you're going to like leave your body somewhere else and try to, like, it has to be a part of the equation.
Yeah. When the athlete thing is an interesting parallel, and you bring up tennis or a lot of sport where and like a great human skill is turning the page quick. Like we don't hang on to things. And I hear other folks that have relationships and marriages that I really look up to and I look to for advice and counsel. And I notice they say the same thing a lot. Another thing I notice, and this is interesting, I had this conversation with a partner recently, and I've heard great fundraisers say this, is not being afraid to admit fault, not being afraid to apologize. And it was a very interesting coaching experience. It just happened yesterday. And I'm just, speaking to fundraisers and just people in general. When I say this, it's like, it was liberating. And once again, a very good coaching experience because we had a team member who happens to be my brother-in-law on the call. And there's, we have a family business. There's 21 of us, but we have a family business. And it was, like I said, a really good learning experience for me. But I called myself out and I told the partner, I said, I got to be honest with you, we've done a bad job. Like it wasn't, nothing was on fire. We didn't, you know what I mean? No one got screwed over, quote unquote, right? Or anything like that. But like, we did not do a good job at maintaining the relationship. And I've heard some phenomenal fundraisers say things like, hey, listen, we dropped the ball. I'm here now. You gave. It's been 2 years. The biggest complaint is you weren't thanked. We only call you when we need money. All these things that I know you've heard ad nauseum. But, I think there's so much power and humanization and all that in just being obviously quick to turn the page, not on your own, transgressions, right? You guys have addressed those, but being really okay with saying that's on me. I did a bad job. And then now we're back. You know what I mean? Now we're back to like homeostasis, so to speak, right? And we can grow from there. We can work from there. I think people are afraid to say that too. I noticed that you probably have seen that before in your work.
I love it because, so there's this woman, Carol Robin, who wrote this book, Building Exceptional Relationships. And her co-author, whose name is escaping me, but they used to teach a class at Stanford that was lovingly known as touchy-feely in the business school at Stanford. But it was all about like how you build relationships and how at the end of the day, relationships are what make businesses thrive. And she talks about these pillars of building connected relationships. And one of them is letting yourself be fully known to create space for the other person to be fully known. And then like being vulnerable is another. And so that's exactly what that is, right? It's saying like, I'm embarrassed. I'm honestly embarrassed to like reach out to you right now because I see that you gave 2 years ago and we really like messed up. And I don't want to let another 2 years go by without trying to own up to this. But I want to be honest that I'm feeling really uncomfortable having to show up after we did that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I didn't do it as an exercise in, you're like, oh, that made me feel great, but I felt better after I said it.
Yeah. Probably because you like wanted to stay connected to the person. I don't mean connected just to like the business relationship, but it's like, what's the alternative there? The alternative is you never address it. This tension grows. You are becoming more and more disconnected. Okay, this is so weird, but whatever. I'm going to say it anyway. I'm really obsessed with dating shows on TV. Sure. Like Love is Blind, Married at First Sight. Okay, I like give me, my husband would be like, she's such a sucker for like trashy dating shows. But the reason that I love them or that I find them so fascinating is I think it's so interesting watching the way that connection can be built and broken. You watch these moments on TV with like one person doing one thing and you watch the other person shut down and you're like, oh, can they get it back? Like, are they going to get it back? And then you can watch sometimes how they are vulnerable enough to rebuild connection, reopen up to each other. And it's like this, but then sometimes they aren't. Sometimes they can't get vulnerable again. They can't open up again. And I think it's just so interesting and sometimes like heartbreaking a little to watch, and we do that. We shut down just to protect ourselves. Like for some people, they can't say what you said because they feel so tender maybe that it's too scary. It's too painful to do what you did. And it takes understanding your nervous system and like nervous system regulation to be able to sit in discomfort. And we are a society that avoids discomfort at all costs. And then we wonder why we have the outcomes that we have. And it's like, well, because a lot of really meaningful things get uncomfortable.
Yeah. 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 A lot of good comes out of it too, can. We talked about well-being a little bit and touched on it and things like that. And, the dating shows, I'm assuming like stuff like that is like a form of escapism and not just the interest in like behavioral science piece, right? Like, do you shut your mind off a little bit? Yeah. And
I do. My husband jokes, I don't watch any shows that dysregulate my nervous system. Yeah. So I just like, that's not entertaining to me. So I don't watch like anything scary. And those shows, the problems feel so far away. Like I can watch those. I can watch like $1 Million Buyer, whatever things, because I'm like, your problems with your like $500,000 bathroom is like not something I can relate to. So I'm not going to get stressed out with you.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. No, it's good. And we've mentioned nervous system. There's a theme here, and I love. It's fascinating. It's fascinating, and how our nervous systems are getting toyed with, whether we know it or not. Right.
Mm-hmm.
However, how we're also in control of that too. And so, like, what do you do, if you don't mind? What do you do to regulate your nervous system, for the audience to hear how you take those steps? And like, what if someone's never even heard that's even a thing? Like, how would you suggest they start to understand, or what resources would they use to understand?
Mm-hmm. So one thing I would say is our nervous system has a parasympathetic and a sympathetic nervous system. So we have like fight, flight,
Yep.
freeze, and there are other new categorizations. And then we have rest and digest. And the purpose is not to always be in rest and digest. Actually, the purpose is for our nervous system to oscillate back and forth and to be able to come back into rest and digest after we're in fight, flight, and freeze. But stress is a very important part of humans, like development. Like, it motivates us, it drives a lot of our action, it helps us protect ourselves, each other. We don't want to live in a world without stress. That's a very important human function. But we do want to make sure that we can always come back into a grounded state. And when we don't, that's what leads to chronic stress, and that's what leads to burnout. So part of rest and digest comes typically when the stimuli that caused the stress in the first place goes away, right? So if you think about an animal in the woods, right? A predator comes, you go to fight, flight, freeze, whatever your response is in that moment, and then the predator leaves, and your body can down regulate naturally because the stimuli is gone. In fundraising, the stimuli doesn't go away in the same way. So it's so easy for us to then get trapped in a fight, flight, freeze response. Or something I see a lot is actually this oscillation between flight and freeze. When we are in scattered fundraising strategy, when we're like, oh, I'm going to do this, now I'm going to start a monthly giving program, and then I'm going to reach out to this major donor, and I'm going to apply this grant, that is a flight response. We are fleeing the discomfort of sitting in the more maybe uncomfortable parts of fundraising, which is sitting down with that donor and having that real conversation. And so we're like, oh no, instead I'm going to start to sell coffee, and I'm going to have like these people like create a, birthday party chocolate thing. And, and I was the person who did all these things, right?
Yes.
Because I was fleeing the discomfort of the deeper relationship building that would have raised the money for my organization. And then we oscillate. We go from that flight, scattered, spray fire system into freeze, into paralysis. Paralysis can also be perfectionism, right? It can be like, oh, I'll reach out to that donor when I change this one sentence on this one pager for the 12,000th time. Okay. That is paralysis. It's not always no movement. Sometimes it's a delay tactic or a kick the can situation. And I just watch fundraisers oscillate back and forth between these two dysregulated nervous system states. So now I'll actually answer your question, but I wanted to make sure to help people like see it, in themselves. If they're like, how do I even know if I am dysregulated? So if you have 12,000 tabs open on your computer, you're potentially a little bit dysregulated.
Yeah, exactly.
If you feel your body vibrating, right? If you feel your eye twitching, when we get that, all of these are signs of dysregulation, which means our body needs to ultimately get back into rest and digest. You can do that in two ways. One is to down regulate immediately. Deep breathing, and deep breathing through your belly, not your chest, is one quick way to do that. So put your hands on your belly, take in a deep breath, ideally through your nose if you can, and have your belly touch your hands that are in front. Deep breathing through your chest is actually still a stress response. So you have to make sure that it's your belly. Other ways you can downregulate your nervous system are even things like going outside and going for a walk, listening to the birds. Sometimes it's you can take the palms of your hands and press them into your eyes, like create total darkness. That will start to downregulate your nervous system. Some people use tapping techniques to downregulate. Or my 6-year-old's favorite is something called butterfly hug, where you tap both sides of your, you do bilateral tapping on your arms. Those are a lot of different things. And what I would say to anybody listening is play with them. Pick
Yeah.
one, try it, see how it feels, try something else. It's about a toolbox, and everybody uses different things at different times. People often ask me for a strategy that they can use in the middle of a meeting. So actually, I'll give you this one too. Place both your feet on the ground and pay attention. Bring your consciousness to your entire foot on each side touching the ground. So like wind your consciousness around your right foot. Is every toe, every part of your foot on the ground? Do the same thing on your left foot and just kind of go back and forth. Nobody will ever notice, and you'll be down regulating in the moment. The last thing I want to say about this, though, is that sometimes you do have to upregulate in order to downregulate. So I remember before I would go on stage to speak, people would say, take some deep breaths. And I'd be back there trying to quote unquote calm down, feeling like I was going to explode out of my body from trying to calm down. This is that if that happens to you, that means you actually need to upregulate in order to get back into rest and digest. That could mean listening to your favorite hip hop music. I made a joke during a keynote to a gift planning association about, I was like, you guys can listen to my like Pitbull soundtrack if you want.
Exactly.
Like you just need the songs that like you can't not dance to, right? Or I have a little mini trampoline that I'll go jump on, or maybe you need to go for a little run, but that sound or movement or motion, that upregulation allows you actually to go back into rest and digest. So I would just start to like play with those, notice how they feel. If something doesn't work, try something else. But yeah, that's my quick nervous system crash course.
No, I think it's awesome. I also think, I don't need to tell you this because you're an expert, but when you find those tools, when you build out that tool, it is such a gift that you can go to that. And I think also like, understanding yourself. You're like, that's what fills my cup up. That's what, that's where I get the juice, so to speak. That's where I get speed from and things like that. And it's so funny. It happened to me yesterday. I get on a trail on my bike a couple miles from my house, never get on it ever. I hadn't been on my bike in like over a week. I'm just like, I need to go for a ride. The sun's out. I'm going to get out. I'm going to bundle up. It's cold even in Northern California. And I'm going to go. And what was so interesting, I get on this and I'm never on it. And I'm in California, so I see a bunch of oaks and green grass and I'm on this and the sun is kind of going and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was it. It's that one moment. It was exactly where I was supposed to be. And by the time I got home, I saw everything from a different light, and I was just like, and I was so thankful that I understood that that's what it means to me. You know what I mean? It's so interesting. It's just, when you can unlock those things and like you said, get outside, listen to the birds, whatever, you just got to find out a place that makes you whole. You know what I mean? Or a spot or an activity. I'm sounding dull by saying that, but like it's really, really useful, Yeah.
Awe is a great nervous system downregulator.
Yes. There you go.
I picked up my 2-year-old yesterday from daycare and the sun was setting and she kept saying, pink sky, because there was this sunset happening over Berkeley. And we pulled up to the house and I said, should we chase the pink sky? And she said, yeah. And we like ran across the street to the park. And I was like, we probably won't catch it, but we can try. And we just like ran towards the pink sky until it was dark. And then, cold and bundled, walked home. And it's just like finding that awe, whether it's in yourself or watching somebody else be in awe of something. It's so good for us. It's so good for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I find myself, the breath thing, I wanted to hit that too. It's like I downloaded the breathwork app a couple of years ago. It's been really, really helpful for me. The breathing. I did it with she's 7 now, but it'd be like, Dad, let's do the breathing exercise. And like, oh, cool. Yeah. It was really fun. So that's been really, really good. Yeah. It's, talking, I go back to like recurring thoughts. like of the
Mm.
past, that like of a place or a person I was with or all the above. For some reason, I find myself like now going back to those moments to put a smile on my face. Like I said,
Mm.
recurring thoughts or memories and things like that seem to be really indelible to me. Yeah.
I
Interesting.
love that.
Yeah, it's
I love
cool.
that.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah, well, I didn't know we were gonna go down the nervous system rabbit hole. So I'm grateful for it because it is fascinating. It's also I I want you to talk to because we have a mutual friend with Nathan Chappelle, lovely. So glad I met Nathan. Amazing. And
Such
I know
a
you
good
feel the
human.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But he's the AI guy.
Mm.
You are one of the inventors of fundraising.ai. I want you to talk about the work that you're doing with
Mm.
Practivated and using technology with all these tools. But what's fascinating to me is that people, leaders like yourself, like Nathan, you keep coming back to people.
Mm. Mm.
You know what I mean? And like you keep coming back to relationships. You keep,
Mm.
Nathan's constantly talking about like filling a leaky bucket where you like traded
Mm.
transactions, and metrics for relationships and
Mm.
building and people. And it's really refreshing to hear people at the forefront of this, like you, talk
Mm.
about that this is not even an option. This is why we're
Mm.
building these tools, is so you'll
Mhm.
connect with more. Talk about that. Like, I mean, was it an aha thing, or and please talk
Mhm.
about the work that you're doing with fundraising.ai and Practivated, or one of
Mm.
the other, whatever you like. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I got involved in fundraising AI first because I was really afraid of AI.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
and,
Cool.
and
Cool. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was really worried about the people part of it, right? I was in a room of mostly technologists talking about how excited everybody was by ChatGPT, and I was like in the back, like, wait, wait, wait.
What about us?
And then I went up to Nathan after and I was like, "Hey, I want to help. I feel like maybe the voice of the nonprofit leader isn't, I mean, Nathan was a fundraiser, like he has it, right? Like he's boots on the ground in so many ways, but I felt like my exposure was to a different community that I worked really closely with, and I was like, I want to help in some way. And so I definitely got into the AI space from the perspective of like, how does it preserve and potentially enhance relationships, but never ever to replace human connection. That is like the last thing I ever want to do. And so it's so interesting, so I created Practivated. It's a conversation simulation environment to practice for donor meetings. You can do role plays, practice scenarios, programs where you're using those types of scenarios and then getting coaching from our coach inside the platform, Tivy, who's an octopus. We love Tivy. You get coaching from Tivy inside the platform all around fundraiser readiness. And what we mean by fundraiser readiness is sometimes it's skill readiness, sometimes it's conversation readiness, sometimes it's campaign readiness, but it's all about bridging that space between insight and action, between I know what to do or this thing is telling me what to do but I'm having trouble doing it. And I'm having trouble doing it either because of a lack of confidence, a lack of clarity, a lack of skills, a lack of support. And so everything I talked about actually with the nervous system and the behavioral science, all of that is in this AI tool, right? The purpose is to use technology to help enable fundraisers to be able to get over the action line on those most vulnerable actions that are going to move those relationships forward, and to be able to do that from a place of confidence and clarity. That's the whole point. And a big part of why I built it was, one, to solve this problem. Like in my book, I talk about the decline of participation to the nonprofit sector and fundraiser burnout, and my deep belief that those are not separate problems and that we actually have to solve them together. And so if I want to help organizations raise more money, I need to solve for what's holding fundraisers back from being able to do so, what's getting in their way, both externally, but also internally. And I really do believe that having a safe, judgment-free, supportive place to practice is so key.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's so much science. Cherry and Koshi just came out with his new book. He talks about the neuroscience of, why we don't want to say things out loud for the first time to a donor. Like,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
ideal, right? And we
Yeah.
all know how hard it is to get in front of donors these days. The last thing we want to do is mess up the chance we got, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I'll tell you, like, a big reason why I built the platform was honestly because I had a lot of fear around who might build it if I didn't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
fact that it could be built in a way that took away from human relationships, right? Like, most of the time when you're building a technology, at least here in Silicon Valley, your goal is to get people to stay inside your product for as long as possible, right? That's what all the investors want. That's what everybody wants. They're like, get people, trap people, keep people, have them spend as much time inside your product as possible, get them addicted to your product, right?
Yeah.
We've seen how poorly this has gone everywhere. And our goal in Practivated is to get you out of our product. Like,
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
goal is that you spend 10 minutes and then you get out, that you know what to do, that you send the email, that you have the conversation, that you do it in person. And we measure success based on what you are doing in the real world, in real connected human relationships, not by what you're just doing inside our platform. Because what do I care if you're talking to Tivy for actually, I don't want you talking to Tivy for 3 hours a day. So then you are
Totally.
not in relationship with humans. And so but I saw, like, in 2024, these growing conversation platforms really angling towards being addictive
Yeah.
and not putting any safeguards in around it. And I was like, okay, like, I have to build this.
Full circle. We're back to that responsibility piece, aren't we?
So now you know why I'm the oldest of four and I take way too much responsibility. But
Uh,
I know. And maybe fear is the wrong reason to do things, but I
oh, I don't think you're fearful at all. Yeah.
well, I was
Yeah.
afraid of what might happen if I
Yeah.
didn't. I remember saying to
Yeah.
my husband, like, we have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. I already had a huge business. I was like, am I really going to do this? Am I start a second business and build and run a tech company? Like, I've avoided tech. I was born in the Bay Area, or I was born in Boston, but I grew up in the Bay Area and
Yeah.
have avoided tech for 40 years,
Yeah.
and now I'm going to go. But I really felt like, one, I could solve the problem I've been trying to solve for 5 years. And that I could do it in an ethical and responsible way. And Nathan has been such a critical part of that, right? Because he's the one who taught me about what could be and helped me dream and helped me think bigger, but also never, never let me think about things that could ultimately be harmful to our sector or to
Yeah.
people or to humanity. And so everything about Practivated in many ways is from fundraising AI. Like, it's built on that framework and all my learning. And it's been such a privilege to get to build that with him and learn from him.
So cool. Well, you made a very interesting point how the donor shrinking pool and the lack of human connection are not mutually exclusive.
Mm.
Very interesting. Yeah, yeah. It's obvious. Yeah, and no one fundraises alone, and no one builds anything alone. Also, I'm such a huge believer because my life has been such a gift. This conversation's no different. Meeting Nathan's no different. The people I surround myself with, the team, it's very interesting and blissful and beautiful and all these lovely things. And I'm a very optimistic person in general, but it's really, really amazing when you get to work with people and surround yourself with people and you get their best versions.
Mm.
That feels tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people are getting your best version in real time.
Mm.
And it's like you said, Nathan's a technologist. He's one of the most brilliant people I've ever. I get starstruck when I talk to Nathan. Like, I was at, like, I'm pretty loquacious. I do a pretty good job of shutting up on the pod, but like, we had him on a live webinar like a week or two ago, and I had nothing to say. I was like, I can't believe it. And I never lose my train of thought. And I was like, Nathan, I think I just got starstruck, dude. I'm really sorry.
Oh my God. Okay. I have such a funny story for you. So last summer, I brought my then 5-year-old with me to a speaking event because she was starting kindergarten a few weeks later. And I was like, look, I'll come, I'll keynote, but my 5-year-old's coming with me.
I think I read about you posting about it. Yeah, you posted about this. Yeah, yeah.
So she comes, we get there, AFP St. Louis, and we get there and there's a big banner with my face on it. And I turn to Emmy and I say, hey, I'm like, Emmy, like, how does it feel seeing a big picture of your mom like this? And she goes, I do not care about it. Okay. That was her direct quote. I
Whoa.
do not care about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, like she's, totally unimpressed. I can't do
Yeah.
anything to impress her anymore. She's only 5. Then we walk into the like little exhibit hall area, and some company there was promoting an upcoming book event with Nathan. So there's a poster of Nathan's face on the table. And literally a minute after she just said that, she sees this poster and she goes, Mom, look, it's my friend Nathan. Will you
Yeah.
take a picture with me and him? And I'm like, oh my God. I'm
So
like,
good.
fine. Nathan can be the celebrity. I'm chopped liver. It's fine.
So funny. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, I hope everyone understands that the responsibility, once again, I'm not putting too much on your shoulders, and Nathan's too, but the responsibility is in really, really good hands.
Mm.
And so it's nice to witness, and it's been been beyond nice to meet you both. Really, really cool.
Mm.
And to watch your work from afar. I'm very excited and very bullish on what the future holds. Very, very cool. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for saying that. And I really, just like you said before, like we don't do anything by ourselves. So I think in a lot of ways, like Nathan and I, I'm I'm Jewish, so this is a little bit, but something I've always admired about like my friends who are like Catholic is the way they talk about like being an instrument.
Yeah.
And I think I feel that way. Like, and I feel, and I think Nathan that like we just want to be of service, and we want to help facilitate all of us getting to do this work. So I don't think either of us feel like it's us.
Yeah.
I think we just want to like hold the container and the space and be a place where everybody, like everything you're doing and in this ecosystem, like none of it's anything without all of us doing our things, And I
Yeah.
think I'm so grateful for you and your voice and the energy that you bring to this sector and the optimism. And you're just such a like light. I remember when I first started, the algorithm gods or whatever started to be in my favor, and I started to see all of your episodes, and I was like, who is this guy?
Oh,
Like it's so just added so much like light and joy, which I just think, I mean, talk about nervous system regulation, like that heals people and it gives people something to believe in and look towards and want to be a part of. And it's just what we need so much. So I'm so
yeah.
grateful.
Yeah. Well, that's really nice encouragement. So thank you. Yeah. Good stuff. It feels good. Hey, way off the wall. You got like a dream guest, or maybe someone that you've, cause like, asking, right? Like it gives us I've been scared to ask some people, but I've gotten over it. Like I've been like, you should come on. And it feels like a podcast pitch. I'm like, no, literally, I really want to talk to you. I think it'd be awesome, that kind of thing. But like, I'm starting to think about dream. It's been an absolute dream having you on. It's been an absolute dream having Nathan on, and what you all bring to the space is obvious, right? But like, yeah, it's like, do you have any dream guests or anything like that?
I finally invited Seth Godin like a year
Yes.
into the podcast, and he came, which was great. And he's been so wonderful, to me since then too.
Cool.
And we have mutual friends, so maybe it'll happen. I did invite maybe years ago, Cheryl Strayed on, because her book Wild was actually like a really big turning point in my life. And I don't actually think I would be doing this if it wasn't for like reading that book at that moment, which had me kind of upend my entire life and go in a different direction. So I'd love to be able to talk to her about that. Liz Gilbert is another person, maybe one day. But I don't know if I was thinking even bigger, like Michelle Obama, like think she'd come on What the Fundraising.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, we can make this, we can make this, this space malleable. You know what I mean? Right. Is the way I look at it. Like I've always wanted to have Gary Vee on, because once again, like
that
really,
would be fun.
Yeah. Really pump me up. You know what I mean? And Seth Godin is definitely one, actually, I've watched from afar, delivered a beautiful podcast. I forgot the name of the show that I saw it was like from 10 years ago. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was really, really good. He said like There Are No More Comfortable Problems or something like that really stuck with me. I'm like, holy
Mm,
smokes. Yeah. My
mm,
new dream guest is this Jay Schwedelson, who does a really great marketing
mm,
pod, Guru Media, subjectline.com. But Do This, Not That is a
mm,
great marketing pod. Yeah, that
mm,
and he's really, and what's funny is, unless I missed it or someone on his team is like, hey, you got to start talking to nonprofits a little bit, because he talks to like
mm,
B2C company, B2B company, stuff like that. And he's cheeky and funny and all those things.
mm,
And there's a levity to it, right? It's really, really
mm,
refreshing and cool. It makes me giggle. And it's 15 minutes or whatever. And I usually get some really good marketing stuff out of it, right? And
mm,
thoughtful stuff. But he's been talking to nonprofits. Like, I would do this in my December email campaign. I'm like,
mm.
we need it. See
Oh,
what I mean?
cool.
Like, we can
Yeah.
intersect this,
Mm.
but I hear him talking about it. So that's another one. But yeah, if, it'll happen, right? For you
Yeah.
and us. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
good.
I just love to learn. I mean, I feel like the people, I've just had so many cool like researchers come on, and they haven't always been well known, but like what I get to learn from them. I mean, I loved having Seth on, and he's such a good human and wonderful person, but I was so nervous. I
Right.
think for me, having people who maybe the pressure doesn't feel quite as high, but
Yeah.
the depth of learning is going to be so tremendous is
Yeah.
like my favorite, because then I can really sink in and just get my mind blown during the
Yeah.
conversation. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, this is why I do this.
Were you doing your toe tapping when you were talking to
Oh
Seth
my God,
Godin?
I'm sure. You know what I did? So he booked on the link, and then
Yeah.
every single morning for 3 weeks, which was the time between when he booked and when we were scheduled to talk, I would wake up in the morning, open my phone and check to see if it was still there, because I didn't believe it. I was like, he's going to cancel. It's not really going to happen. And I'd be like, oh my God, Ryan, my husband, he's still on my calendar.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that awesome? Oh, good for you. That's great. That's great. I love that. We're
Mhm.
gonna put in we want folks to connect with you on LinkedIn. So
Amazing.
yeah, we'll put your LinkedIn in the show notes. How folks can find out more about Practivated, find out more about what the fundraising, the show, the book, all the above, find out more about you. Please, everybody, do us a favor and show Mallory some love and support and connect with her. Obviously, very, very easy to talk to, and can't thank you enough for the work. Mean it. And for the time. Thanks for spending this much time with us. And I know the audience will get a tremendous amount out of it. So appreciate you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.